Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West.
Yippee-o, yippee-yay.
It's a Wild Wild West. Oh, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Batman the Fan-imated stream. Sorry for the delay. First off, I was having some dinner with the special ladies in my life tonight. So, a little bit of a delay. And then all of a sudden I had a crash, a full-on computer crash.
Dave, we're supposed to go to the Wild West, not the Stone Age.
I know, seriously. That's what happened. I clicked one thing and all of a sudden my computer just went boop. Oh, man. That was very interesting. And then, of course, I was still kind of having some issues, but I think we're good now. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Batman the Fan-imated stream. What's going on, Scott? How you doing?
Good Sunday. Got a lot of laundry done today. That was a good, and not like the washing, but like the actual like stuff that's been washed for like a month and been like, you know how laundry just sort of like grows like the fungus in The Last of Us, and then you don't put it away.
Yeah,
we put some stuff away today. What can I say?
You got a full house there, so that's a lot of clothes, a lot of clothes, sheets, whatever. So yeah, sounds like a pretty good Sunday. Like I said, I had a good one too. Like I said, I had some dinner with my mom and watched a little bit of the SAG Awards, which congratulations to Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's just cleaning house,
yes.
Mr. Kwan, Michelle Yeoh, and then it won Best Picture, I guess you could say.
Best Picture, yeah, and then Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And James Hong.
Yes, it's just cleaning freaking house.
It actually has won the most SAG Awards of any single movie in history.
There you go. Well, congratulations to them. But we're going to be going into the Wild Wild West in this episode.
Which is such an interesting departure. This episode is an interesting departure. It really is.
So last week, it got very, almost James Bond-like, because we traveled to London. And, it was like a whole espionage, missile silo hidden in the in a tower at a castle. And, the villain, of course, Red Claw coming back. And that's just that villain could easily fit in a James Bond movie. And now we're going into, and then we're going to be like going into the Wild Wild West here. I mean, obviously it's not Batman and Robin that it's going to be going in the Wild Wild West, but we get like a little story from the West, and we get our first introduction to Jonah Hex, which we have both mentioned before that we didn't know who this guy was before this episode.
Not at all.
And I mean, and to be honest, I never really followed up. I know there was a Jonah Hex movie starring Mr. Josh Brolin.
And
Megan Fox.
Don't.
I don't really even remember the movie. That's
for the best.
Yes.
Now, if you want some really good Jonah Hex, what you need is you need to go check out All-Star Western by Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray. Now, those guys, that is some A-class Jonah Hex comic books for you to go and read.
Okay, so there you go. So yeah, pick those up because I mean, it's when it comes to Jonah Hex, I mean, obviously he has a distinct look. He's got the scarred face, like and then of course it's always the skin that goes from like his lip to both of his lips. That's just like that's the distinctive look that he has. I mean, I remember when I watched this episode as a kid, I thought, is this like a version of Two-Face? Because that big eye reminded me of Two-Face's big eye.
Yeah, he gets his face burned.
Yeah,
like that's what happens to him, and it's subtle in this series because part of his history is that he was a Confederate soldier during the Civil War, and if you pay attention, he's wearing gray because the Confederacy wore gray and the Union wore blue, and he still wears his Confederate
jacket.
Yeah, the jacket and the hat.
Yeah.
So, he goes off west and gets and because he gets so disillusioned with the war.
And no like super abilities, really.
No. He's just a badass. He's just a bounty hunter. Like, that's where the movie went wrong, is the movie tried to give him a superpower. It's like, no, he's just a dude.
Oh man. Oh god. When did that movie come out? It had to be like in the 2000s.
It was definitely it was like the 2010s.
Yeah, something like that. Just what were they thinking? I mean, it's just like sometimes you just go, what were you thinking? Like, you're gonna give a movie to Jonah Hex that nobody knows. I don't know, but I mean, it would be cool to see him show up maybe in some other live action in the future, but I don't think that's going to be on the table right now for James Gunn at the moment. At least he's got a lot of other things to handle first, but yeah, you never know. could pop up in something random, but who knows? But anyways, but yeah. So this episode is, it's one of those where it's present day flashback, and we start off at a rest home. It's like a nice, one of those big. It looks like a big mansion, but it's home for older people. And then did these ninjas remind you of like Spider-Man a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, they had the Spider-Man eyes, which was weird because that was completely different than the design. Because the last time we saw the League of Shadows, I almost said League of Assassins, but the League of Shadow Ninjas looking like this was back in I cannot believe I'm blanking, but the Vertigo episode where we get introduced to Talia. Off balance. There we go.
Off balance. There you go.
Took me a second there because when they show up, they kill the guy, at the Lady Freedom, Lady Goth, the pseudo Statue of Liberty at the beginning of that episode.
True that.
But yeah, definitely the Spider-Man eyes. That's
what I wrote. I was like Spider-Man ninjas, pretty much. Reminded me of like in Far From Home when he wore like the black suit, the stealth.
Yeah.
That was very much what it like. But I also wanted to say hi to everybody that was here. Sorry, I forgot to say that. What's going on, MSGT? We got Mr. Venom here. Good to see you. Then we got Tet. Always good to see you. Already said hi to you. Hoy, hoy, Mr. Jason. We got, making the joke. Good job, Jose. I like that. Yes. And we got Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy. And then we got Eric right here. No problem. It happens. And then, of course, we got Mama Film Junkie here. Good to see you, Mom. Thank you for dinner. And, of course, we have Saggy here. At least she didn't say I smelled. She usually says that, but hey, what can you do?
No, and I noticed someone commenting about the story by three people, because it was Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and I think the other one was Alan Burnett. So, I mean, it's the brain trust. You could tell that they intentionally wanted to tell a Jonah Hex story, and then they got Joe Lansdale to write the episode. Now, he's written 2 episodes previous to this, and this was actually his last episode that he wrote for the series. Because he wrote Perchance to Dream.
All right.
And then he wrote Read My Lips.
Okay.
And he actually, because he's been a crime novelist and he's been a Western novelist. So kind of like how we talked about how much we enjoyed how Read My Lips felt very like in its genre.
Yeah.
I feel like Showdown does the same thing. It's like you could tell that you got a guy who knows how to write a Western writing this episode when we get to those flashbacks.
We do. And you know what? I mean, this is a fun episode. I mean, it really
is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I remembered it because it stood out. And I remember the Jonah Hex character. And like I said, I just thought as a kid, it was like some kind of like, is he like Two-Face because of that big eyeball that you actually see him? But before we get to that, we got Raish coming back here. And obviously, talking about the ninjas. And then, of course, they're just basically breaking into this rest home, and then obviously Batman and Robin show up. They start kicking all the ninjas' asses, doing all that, and then there's an old man in a room with a fireplace, just in a chair that Raish is trying getting to, and we find out that that's who he's there for, because as soon as Batman and Robin get into that room, it's gone, just flying, flat out gone, and we're just like, okay.
But we have a cassette tape.
We have a cassette tape. We do have a cassette tape that he leaves right there. Oh man, remember cassette tape, kids? I always like to say that. But yeah, we get that, and then of course, when we get Batman and Robin back into the Batmobile, it's basically a cassette tape of detective. I'm going to tell them about a little story that happened in 1883. That's right. We're going back to 1883. What's that Yellowstone show? What's that year? Is it close to
It's 1880? It's 1883, same year.
So I mean, I guess there's like a historical significance.
Well, because you've got the Oregon Trail going on at that time, but it kind of ties into what's going on this episode, which is the Transcontinental Railroad. Yeah. Because that did like the idea of they started in the west building east, and they started in the east building west, and there was a gold spike that was driven into the ground to mark when they officially like joined the two ends.
Yes, and I remember, like, I mean, this episode does give me Wild Wild West vibes. I never watched the show, but I watched the movie, which,
Unfortunately,
you know what, I have it could be a guilty pleasure for a little bit because Will Smith, Kevin Kline, Selma Hayek. Yeah, I mean, come on,
and
there's
Kenneth
some,
Branagh chewing all the scenery.
yes, the way that he talks with all that, and then just the crazy, stupid Western rustic steampunk technology.
The steampunk, and that's where I get the Wild Wild West vibes, is because you've got Ra's al Ghul, who, because he's been alive for hundreds of years,
600 years,
yeah, he thinks outside the box. He's able to develop technology, and that's what's always so cool about steampunk, is the idea of, let's see futuristic, anachronistic technology, but with the materials that would have been available at the time.
Exactly. And I think even in the Wild Wild West movie, wasn't there a scene where the president or somebody like did that golden spike or something? I don't know.
I don't remember. I literally watched that movie one time in theaters, and I've never seen it since. So
I think there was actually a scene that had that in there. But anyways, yes, we're back to 1883. And then, of course, like you were explaining, and then, we, of course, get that cool little reveal when we see the workers laying down the track. And, of course, nailing down the spikes, and we get that silhouette in the distance, and he's just walking up, the guy that just is walking from town to town.
It's such a Western cliche.
It's tropey as hell.
And right. It's like the Clint Eastwood movies, The Man with No Name. They kind of did it in The Mandalorian with Cad Bane. You've always got the stranger who's approaching from the horizon in shadow, so you don't even know like who it is. I love it. I mean, if you enjoy the Western genre, and it's a genre that I am sorely underserved on, I need to see more classic Westerns than I have.
I agree. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, for a while, I mean, that was the Western was the comic book movie. It was the comic book movie at it. Even more than that, because it was like I would say that like every other movie was a Western at one point. I mean, you go back and watch some of those and they're ridiculous. They're really ridiculous. But then
some of them are really good.
Yeah, some of them are really good. And then all of a sudden, when it got even further, obviously with Clint Eastwood and all that stuff, but then even further in, one of my favorites is Tombstone, obviously.
Oh, Tombstone's such a good one.
It's just so good. And then, of course, you got your Unforgivens, you got your, Django Unchained, you got all those. But yeah, there needs to be more. There definitely needs to be more.
But I will tell you this, that an aficionado of Westerns, both of, movies and television, let's not forget how many freaking Western TV shows, like The Rifleman, Rawhide. I mean, there were
the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, that movie. Seven Samurai.
Yes, that's right.
Which I just got the 4K from Shout Factory this week.
That movie. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen.
Yes. Oh yeah, I remember watching that with I think my dad showed me that one because he was a big fan of the original. But even then, watching the recent one that came out,
with Denzel.
With Denzel and Chris Pratt and all those guys. I mean, talk about just like, all right, let's see how this goes. And man, that movie, I remember, just blew me away. And I thought they said that they were making a sequel to that, which really doesn't make sense when spoiler.
If you know how that movie ends, I mean,
a lot of them die. It's kind of like the Western Suicide Squad, I guess you could say, almost. But anyways,
voice cast in this episode rewards fans of the genre.
Now, when it came, I knew it when I was like hearing some of the voices. I'm like, okay, they sound like some of them don't sound familiar. Jonah Hex, but there was one voice that I kept going, oh, I know it. And
did you peek?
The barmaid?
Yeah. Did you peek?
Should I wiggle my nose?
Yes, you should.
Yes, I did have to peek because it was bothering me. Because her voice, the barmaid, when Jonah Hex gets into the saloon, the whole traditional thing of, like he's going in for like, I think for a drink of water because it is a kid show. But, and then we got a barmaid and I kept hearing the voice. I'm like, why do I know that voice? Elizabeth Montgomery.
And did you know that this was her final role?
Really? I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Here's the deal with Elizabeth Montgomery, which, by the way, if you don't know the name, it's Samantha from Bewitched. You
Yeah.
know, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
she passed away on May 18th, 1995. This episode aired on September 12th, 1995.
Okay. And then because I did peek, but I did not recognize the other names.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
going to be honest with you. I did not recognize the other names, but it was one of those cases that when I looked them up, I went, well, la-ti-da. I mean, the big one, there's two big ones. But we'll start off here with Jonah Hex because we've already introduced him into the show.
Yeah.
He's voiced by William McKinney.
Okay.
The name might not mean much to you, but you have seen him.
Okay.
His big one that I'm going to introduce here is like, you sure do have a perfect mouth.
Oh, okay. Yes,
He's the mountain man from Deliverance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That face right there. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's one of those that you look at his face and you go, I have seen you in things.
And if you look at it, he went more by Bill McKinney, right?
Yeah.
I think he went more. Yeah. Totally. And he's been in westerns.
Oh yeah, he was the captain in Outlaw Josie Wales. So we're talking about Clint Eastwood. He's also one of the guys in the bar and Back to the Future Part 3.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Is he one? He's not one of. Oh yeah, that's right. He's sitting down on the table, like
the two guys that Doc talks to. Yes,
that's right. Okay, he was also in First Blood. Yeah, that's right. He's been in so many things.
Oh no, you like his Wikipedia page is like
huge.
It's huge,
absolutely huge, man. Okay, and then well, we get to another character later. Well, we get to the character that Jonah Hex is looking for, because we get this, this one guy, kind of a chunky dude that starts going, he knows who Jonah Hex is. He starts doing that whole thing where he's leaned up.
Oh, the sheriff. Yeah.
Yeah. The sheriff. And he starts, telling him, and then, Jonah Hex basically says why he is there, because he's looking for this guy named Duvall, who, and of course he has the reward poster, and apparently, something happened. And then of course, he's wanting that $200 reward. I mean, and then of course I love how he, like, I had to rewind and I'm like, what did he say to him? He basically said how chunky the guy is.
Yeah, which, by the way, the voice actor for the sheriff is William Bryant, who also, if you look at his Wikipedia page, face is kind of familiar, but dude, if it was a Western and it was on television, the man was on it. That guy was on. He also did like Mission Impossible back in the day. It was like, they went for actors.
Hondo, yeah, he was in Hondo, yeah.
Yeah, like, so William Bryant was the voice of the sheriff. Small part, but once again, even for a small part, they were like, no, we're gonna get a dude who like did this. Like, this is his genre. So it was kind of cool to like dive into some of these names going, I know these voices, but I don't know these names.
Yeah, but you see their pictures and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, like especially Mr. McKinney right there.
Oh, absolutely, Mr. McKinney.
This guy not so much, but yeah, you could see that he's had a pretty good career in that. He was in a lot of westerns. But yeah, so I just like how he just like kind of gave him the business right there. He's like, hey, sheriff.
I like the one that says the poster says dead or alive. Maybe you should try alive this time.
Yeah, some good lines in here. Some good lines. And then of course we get the barmaid. And then like I said, the voice was just like, I know that voice. So I just, it was bothering me because I was like, it was right there. It was right there. And then once I read the name, I went, oh, there it is. And I went, okay, yeah, I knew it. Cause my mom watched reruns of that all the time.
Oh, I watched reruns of Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. It was in the rotation. It was
all there. And then of course, he talks about that, and then she is going to help him out, because a barmaid, you never know when a barmaid's going to help you out. Sometimes they might just be a barmaid, but sometimes, hey, they know some shit and they're going to help you out.
And then you wonder if they're going to do you good, because I also, as we've been recommending Jonah Hex material, if you did not watch the Jonah Hex short that was part of the DC direct-to-video movies, I forgot which movie it specifically was the special feature on, but if you got like the Superman Shazam Return of Black Adam collection, That was the one that had Thomas Jane as the voice of Jonah Hex, and
Oh,
had
that's not
Linda
bad.
Hamilton as the voice of a barmaid, a
Mm.
madam in that short. And that one's actually written by Jimmy Palmiotti. So
Oh, interesting. Thomas Jane. That's a good voice casting right there. I dig that. But yeah, so then she's so it's like, it's dark, midnight, whatever. They go onto this, like, I guess this hill or this whatever
Ridge. It's more like a
ridge. There you
ridge.
go. More
Yeah.
like a ridge. And she's talking about sky monsters and weird glows that are coming from the rocks and everything. And sure enough, they see something like that. And then of course that's just her duty. And of course she does the whole thing. She gives him a nice little kiss, even though it's like, you really want to kiss that weird part right there.
But I think that's the point, though, is that
Yeah.
she's just like, you're a good man. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing this because Jonah Hex says the whole reason he's after Arcady is because he messed up a girl back east. So
Yeah.
you kind of get that, because you get that Southern gentleman kind of like, oh no, you don't mess with a woman. Like,
No.
you infer when you're older that she was a hooker or a prostitute.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't care. She was a woman. You don't do whatever it is you did, because
Exactly.
the barmaid talks about the fact that she talks about her girls. Once again, they call
Uh,
a barmaid, you're a madam. Like, you're running a brothel.
yeah.
But once again, this is a kid show.
It's just a kids show, so you have to play, standards and practices. You gotta play with the words right there. You're correct. I mean, like I said, he didn't really. Is he going in for Is he going in for one of these, a drink of this? No, it's most likely water if it's a kids show. But we could assume that if Jonah Hex is showing up in a saloon, yeah, water, because he's been walking, but he's also gonna probably want a shot of whiskey or something like that too. So,
But
yeah,
I
you're
like,
right.
but yeah, but she sees the good man in him,
Yeah.
because his reason. I mean, he says he's there to get him because of what he did to the girl. The $200 is just a bonus.
Yeah. It's just a bonus. Get some cash, whatever. And then so then yeah, the glow of the rocks, he finds his way down to underneath this ridge, and then basically seeing, like, there's a whole thing that's happening. Would you call, like, this thing like almost like a Zeppelin?
It's a Zeppelin.
It is a
Yes.
Zeppelin, right? Okay, that's
It's
what
a
it was.
Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because they even talk about the hydrogen gas, because I
Yeah.
mean, once again, that's what the Hindenburg. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
the Hindenburg disaster happened, was
Uh-huh.
because it was hydrogen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You puncture that. Ooh, that's
boom.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
exactly.
gonna be good. Not gonna be good for anybody. I also do like the fact that, like, when she does say goodbye, and it was almost like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. When he says, like, I make my own, he likes to make his own luck. I make my
Yes.
own luck, kind of thing. And I'm like,
Oh, look.
yeah, Two-Face in Dark Knight kind of said something like that.
Yes, he
Which
did
is,
say
yeah,
that. Yes, he did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then, of course, he's seeing all that. And then we meet we see the guy, his name's Duvall. His last, I can't forget his first name, but it was like
Arcady.
Arcady, that's what it is. Arcady Duvall. And he's you got all these workers
And
that
you
are all.
recognize that voice immediately, right?
No, I did not.
Dude, seriously?
I did not.
It's Malcolm McDowell.
Oh no. God damn it. I know, it's funny because I even paused it just to look at the barmaid's voice, and I did not even look and see that. Wow. No shit.
Malcolm
Of course it is.
McDowell.
Of
Yes.
course it is. My God. And now I'm just like, because I did I like thought, okay, that sounds familiar, but I just didn't bother to think like, I'll let Scott talk about. But now I feel womp womp. Jesus Christ. Yes. Now I'm like, yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. But it was the Elizabeth Montgomery voice that was just
You were
eating
so
my brain.
fixated on trying to
Yes.
figure out who Elizabeth Montgomery was.
That I just totally went, like, just brushed past that right there. Holy shit. Now I'm like, yeah, now I hear it. Now I absolutely hear it. I don't even have to look that up or anything like that. If anybody has to look up Malcolm
McDowell,
I think, yeah, if you need to look him up and you see him, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that guy. Of course. Been a lot of things. Anyways, God damn it. But anyways, so he's got, the workers are working. They're all kind of like got some kind of suit on or whatever.
It's a weird, like an old-fashioned like scuba suit, but you can tell that basically it's because they're doing welding work.
Yeah.
So the suit's important because it's going to protect them from the heat and the metal and everything else. But it you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the Mark I Iron Man suit.
You know what? Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. But then we got, Mr. Duvall right here, who's like, when somebody like drops something and blah blah blah, he starts whipping them. I mean, this guy's a dick. This guy's
Oh,
a
complete.
douche.
Even Rachel Ghul thinks he's a dick.
Yeah, Raish stops him from doing it. And he basically is like, good men are hard to find these days, and blah blah blah. Just basically telling him this.
Okay,
idiot.
I'm sorry, but your Rachel Ghul is sounding a little too much like your Clock King.
I know it's starting to blend. I should not do that. Yes, I know. Detective. I know it's hard. It's
Detective.
The octave is like
You're going a little too much into your
Two Clock King. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Gotta bring it back down a little bit. No, you're right. You're absolutely correct. But no, Rach is actually going like, hey, good men are hard to find. Don't do this. Like, hey, we kind of see that lighter side of Rach in this episode a little bit, where it's like, huh, okay.
He's sentimental.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. Remember that the first time we got introduced to him, he's like, you didn't get that vibe from him. And then even like the last time we saw him, when it came to what was the episode with the
Avatar.
Yeah. It was just, I don't know. But then we're just kind of seeing like almost like a different race a little bit right here. And I thought, all right, that's pretty cool. Explains to all that. But then at the same time, he wants to be master of America.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He does. Well, but also it tracks with his agenda because he's talking about westward expansion, and that totally would jive with his environmental eco-terrorism agenda. I mean, I could also imagine that the massacre of the Native Americans doesn't fly too well with Raish either, because there was the massacre. I mean, there was basically almost a genocide of the Native Americans, and then also all the wildlife, like the buffalo and everything else that all that Western expansion, completely decimated. So once again, a lot of things that when I watch all of these Taylor Sheridan shows like Yellowstone in 1883 and 1923, really getting filled in a lot. But I could totally see that jiving with Raish going, screw y'all.
Yeah.
No, this needs to stop.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I know. That's one of those things where I need to like start getting into those shows so I can get a little bit more.
You also need to read "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee" if you really want to read a book that goes, "Wow, I feel like crap now."
Okay.
Yeah. I had to read it for AP US History. But if you want to talk about how we screwed over the Native Americans time and time again, oh yeah, that book is like,
read that one and be like,
read that one. Mm-hmm.
Ouch. Okay. But of course, Jonah is looking at all this, and then of course some men kind of get the jump on him, and I guess like these, obviously the suits that we're talking about, they're bulletproof because he does shoot at them.
They're metal, right?
Yeah.
They're metal. They're metal suits. So yeah, the bullets would bounce off, and that also means that when they go to attack Jonah Hex, I mean, you're pounding him with a metal suit. I mean,
yeah. So there's no getting away from him. Like, again, he does not have any super strength or anything like that. So he's just a dude with a weird face, but he's just a badass. And so when it comes to and then of course we get to Duvall, and then he explains how, like, he basically, I guess he walked across like 12 states to get to him. And
I love they walked across 12 states.
Oh,
he chased him across 12 states.
Yeah. Looking for him because he's a bounty hunter.
Because and about all of Duvall, like, you can totally tell the difference. Like, Duvall's like, I messed up one girl and you chased me across 12 states. And Hex is like, you had it coming.
Yeah. Sorry. And then of course he's like, obviously again, the $200 reward is just, it was a bonus. It's a bonus for him. But I love, like, he says something to him. I forgot exactly what he said. That I write right here, but it kind of shakes Duvall up a little bit. Like, oof, like he said that. I forgot exactly what it was, but you actually saw like him kind of go like, put him in the lead bath. And then he's just like, get him out of
I don't remember what he said either, but he basically just insulted him, because you can tell that Duvall is so up his own ass.
Yes,
that
he's proud of himself.
That any kind of, insult to his character is he's not going to stand for that. Because we're still in the days of, like, you impugned my honor. I will slap you across the face, and we will have a duel at dawn.
Challenge you to a duel, and then they do that whole But yeah, so he wants to give him to the lead bath, which essentially is just hanging him upside down into lead.
Molten metal.
Molten lead, yeah. So basically killing him. But then, of course, we get Raish going, what are you doing? Like, this is, and then he's like, hey, he's a bounty. Like, he is, he broke into this place. What? Of course, we got to get rid of this guy. He's going to mess up this whole thing. And, but then Raish is like, no, we're not doing this. So then they just put Jonah in a cage, as opposed to a lead bath, which is funny. So again, we see Raish going, dude, stop this, whatever the hell you're doing. Stop being a dick.
Stop being a dick and stop doing things without consulting me first, because let's remember, I'm in charge. You're not.
Oh, God. And it's funny too, because once we figure out who this guy is, you kind of go,
oh.
I mean, we're, for anybody who's listening, I mean, obviously, if you watch the episode, you know exactly where it's going, but it's just kind of like, you kind of, now when you like, when you get to that point, you're like, yeah, okay, we've seen this before. But yeah, so then Raish is just like, hey, any decision you make has to go through me now. Okay, I'm done.
Okay,
I'm done.
By the way, did you love the fact that Ra's al Ghul looked like the Monopoly Man?
Yes, he had the monocle. Yeah,
he had the monocle. He had the top hat. I mean, it was
exactly.
Like, I thought the monocle was an interesting choice. I'm gonna say that.
Hey, man, when you're around for 600 years, you want to be on top of the fashion of whatever's trending, right? I guess, even though when it comes to present day, he, looks very wizardy.
He does look very wizardy. That is very true.
Yeah. So I don't know. He needs to update that a little bit. But hey, he wouldn't look as menacing. But so they put him in a cage, and then of course, Jonah, being the guy that he is, he notices like, oh, okay, well, I got a little hay bed right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and scoop the dirt up, hide underneath, so when the guard comes around, he'll think I'm gone.
Oh, it's such a cool move too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he doesn't. Because I remember I was watching the episode and I forgot. I remembered that he, did something underneath the bed because he finds the dirt soft.
Yeah,
I forgot. I was like, I don't remember him digging his way out, and then I realized, oh no, he just dug a deep enough hole that he could like hide underneath it. Yeah.
But then when the guard comes in with some food, which I'm sure is awful, he just goes, and then of course does that guard thing where he immediately just like opens it up and is like, and so then of course Jonah just pops out and just knocks him out, and then of course makes his escape right there. So it's cool. And then of course the Zeppelin's going to be taken off, and Jonah Hex gets onto it, grabs onto the rope, does that whole thing where the hero grabs on, as it's lifting off, and he can lift himself into the whole thing. And then of course we cut to the governor, of course, doing the gold spike thing.
By the way, the governor's a voice too.
Who is he?
Now this one's different, because I was listening to it going, okay, you don't deliver these lines like an actor would. You sound like a real person who's trying to do line delivery.
Oh.
It's Senator Patrick Leahy.
Patrick Leahy.
Democrat from Vermont. He was a senator from 1974 until this past January. He finally retired as a U.S. senator from Vermont.
Oh, so an actual politician.
But have you not heard of Senator Leahy?
I don't think I have.
Senator Leahy has appeared in Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, and Batman v Superman.
What the fuck?
Wait a minute. Yes, he is a lifelong Batman fan.
Yeah.
And so you gotta remember, this episode aired in 1995, the same year Batman Forever came out. Okay. So he has an uncredited cameo in one of the parties at Batman Forever. He's one of the bidders at the auction in Batman and Robin.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about maybe now.
Okay. In The Dark Knight, he's the guy at the fundraiser who goes, we're not intimidated by you thugs. And Heath Ledger goes, you remind me of my father. I hated him.
Okay.
Now that's Senator Leahy. So then he appears again in The Dark Knight Rises as a board member of Wayne Enterprises, trying to protect it from Daggett in The Dark Knight Rises. And then he plays a senator in Batman v Superman. He's at the hearing when the bomb goes off.
Okay, I had no idea about this. Wow.
Yeah, he has kind of made it kind of a deal where he's made all these Batman. He's written prefaces to at least 3 Batman graphic novels, including the Denny O'Neil story called The Innocents, which was a 1996 graphic novel. I never bought it, but I remember seeing it at a Borders or something. It was the one that was about basically about the historical dangers of landmines. And he wrote that. But yeah, and then all of his royalties and fees that he would technically earn by making these appearances, he donates to charities, including his childhood library, where he first read Batman comics when he got his library card when he was 4.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
It's the library. Oh man, what's the name of it? It's in Montpelier, Vermont, and it's the Kellogg Hubbard Library. That's where because he would read comic books there as a kid. So that's where he would donate the royalties he would get from these appearances.
Wow. See, I had no idea about this. No idea. But something sounds vaguely familiar when I was like, when you're talking about like the cameos in Forever and Batman and Robin, but I did not know.
I remember hearing about, he's this big Batman fan. And I remember saying that basically since Batman Forever, he'd had like almost a continuous appearance in every Batman film since then. So it was those 5,
but there was nothing in the Batman.
Nothing in the Batman. Probably because of A, COVID, and B, it being filmed,
overseas.
But no, he appeared in those movies, but I did not know about this animated appearance. Like that's when I was like, but when I paused and I saw his name, I was like, oh, I know who that guy is.
That's funny. Wow. So there you go. There is just a lot going on with this episode right here, especially when it comes
there was a lot. I mean, this shocked me, Dave. Like I'm sitting here going, I'm watching the episode last night. I'm taking notes going, oh, I'm going to have fun on Sunday.
Yeah, no shit. My God. Getting a full-on lesson here. But yeah, so we get the governor, which of course is Mr. Leahy, which congratulations, dude. That's just freaking awesome. I love that. And then of course the Zeppelin starts shooting missiles. Obviously at the town, we hit the clock
I love its
tower.
Cannonballs. They're literally shooting cannonballs.
They're not missiles, they're cannonballs. Yeah, because when you get on there, there's like a certain thing that obviously Jonah Hex ends up doing. But then of course we have Raish, and we have a young Abu, right? That was the young Abu I saw too. And
no, that wasn't Ubu. That wasn't
Ubu, not Abu. Ubu. It looked like him though. I thought.
Yeah, this isn't Aladdin.
But it looked. I don't know. I thought maybe it was like a young version of him. Maybe he's done the whole Lazarus Pit thing a couple of times too. I don't know. I was like, I put a question mark by it. But it did. This does definitely give Wild Wild West vibes.
Absolutely. This definitely gives you this Wild Wild West vibe.
Because you see the speaker and he's talking through it. The speaker looks like exactly what you saw.
It looks like a Vitrola.
Exactly. And I think we saw the same exact thing in Wild Wild West. Of course, Batman the Animated Series did it first. So
yes, very much.
This episode came out before Wild Wild West. So, but yeah. And he's basically, obviously letting the town know what was what's happening right there. But yeah, so everything's just like being destroyed and everything. And then, obviously Jonah Hex is doing his thing. And then we finally, as things are starting to go haywire and, they're shooting up the place. And it's funny too, because we have a full on war sequence that is happening right now.
Yeah. And this is interesting. And I caught this later on when we jump back to the present and Raish is talking to Batman. He talks about the Phoenix incident. So I'm assuming that they never tell you. I'm assuming the whole thing is happening in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, probably desert. It seems like it would be.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So, but I mean, we have a full on. I was just thinking, I was like, damn, this is like a full on war sequence that's happening. But of course, again, you can't show anybody getting, blown up or killed or anything like that. But it's just full on. I mean, you see the soldiers, they're shooting back. It's a pretty intense sequence that's happening here. And then of course, Jonah Hex is like going to be doing this thing. And then Raish just kind of goes like, hey, tell the men to, abandon ship because, Mr. Hex kind of just like shot at the,
oh, that is such a badass move when he kicks the cannon and then
just shoots it up like, yeah, boom. And just blows up the canisters with the hydrogen. Yeah. And then everything just starts to go to shit. And then, yeah, Raish is just like, abandoned ship, guys, and he gets on his little glider and just heads right out of
and I
there.
noticed that the Raish's glider and their parachutes all look like those old Da Vinci designs. Because Da
Yeah. Oh,
Vinci
yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
designed like these flying, because the Wright brothers haven't happened yet.
Now,
So technically we haven't had planes yet. But once again, because those Da Vinci designs are out there, I think it's interesting that Raish obviously looked inspired.
yeah.
We did kind of go back. We did, however, there's a line from this episode that I always remember.
Okay.
And it's right there when Arcady and Hex are ready, and Arcady's like, "I am the fencing champion."
Oh, yeah.
And he's got like the big like saber that he's like flinging around, and Jonah's there with like a Bowie knife, like that, like that's what he's got. And I just love him going, "My heart's all aflutter." I don't know why, but that delivery of "my heart's all aflutter."
Yeah. Exactly. It's just Jonah Hex being a fucking smartass, which is, it's awesome because he's just like, all right, you're a fencing champion, you're proud of yourself.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
I'm gonna kick your ass with a fucking knife. It's like, I got this. I'm not afraid of you at all. But yeah, that is a good line too. Yeah, he does say he's a fencing champion. And then everything's going, and then this is the clip I wanted to show when we get the rest of the showdown as the Zeppelin is crashing down, and we'll get it right here. It's pretty friggin' cool.
It's interesting. I just there's barely any Batman in this episode.
There isn't.
It's such a great episode.
It is. Yeah, exactly. There you go, holding him back with that little knife.
I know, right?
He's strong. Look at him go. And then, of course, Duvall has that distinct scar on his face too.
Yes, he does.
Then he gets a steam burn.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And I love it. Jonah like saves him. It's like, I'm going to throw you off the side.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you go down with the ship. And then, of course, we get those beautiful Batman the Animated Series explosions that we get.
I love the sound effect.
Michael Bay would be proud. Yeah.
That's a cool shot. That shading right there.
Yeah.
Take it. Leave me be. It ain't about money. It's about justice. And I aim to serve you, son.
And I aim to serve you, son. I love that. I love that.
I will. Only because it's too much trouble to haul your stinking carcass
back east.
This is so cool. Then you get that, and then he sees his hat, puts it right back on.
It's still smoking.
I'm getting too old for this. It's so good. And then, of course, we get back to present day.
Which is actually like the least interesting part of this episode.
It really is. Like, you could just kind of go, okay, we could just end it right there. Huh? Can we just end it right there? But of course, we get to the airport, and Raish, and then we get but the thing is, though, we get the great reveal. We do get the great reveal because obviously Raish broke into that rest home to get this old man, and it turns out, when we finally get the reveal who the old man is, it is Duvall. And then, as Raish is explaining to Batman and Robin, it's his son. Dun dun dun.
You think in my 600 years on this planet, I would have only have sired one progeny?
That's what he says right there. But this goes back to the whole, remember when Raish was all about, Bruce basically
being his son and being his heir. Yeah.
Yes, being the heir of what he was trying to accomplish. So it was very interesting, and it was an interesting twist. And then after all that, I love it when it's just like, Raish is just like, hey, just let me take my son. Let me take him out of here and do this. And Batman just does that whole thing where he just drops his cape.
Oh, yeah, the cape is like, it just
kind of goes, all right. And then he just turns around and goes back to the Batmobile. And Robin's kind of probably, he's a little bit like, all right. He's just there. I'm sure he heard stories about the history between, Bruce and Raish, but.
Well, no. Remember, he got kidnapped by Raish in Demon's Quest. So he's been there since the beginning.
Yeah. So so maybe Robin's, he's just a little like, okay, and then, that's pretty much it.
It kind of reminds me of what happens in Demon's Quest Part 1 when Batman explains how he figured out that Raish was behind it the whole time, and he's like, "You ready to go?" All right, but it's just getting interesting.
Like, yeah, I know, right? That's probably like a similar thing too, because it's like, wait a minute, we just found out that he has a son, and look at him, he's right. What, So, but then, yeah, it's just one of those. Like, I just like what Batman did. It just just drops his cape like that and just turns.
Well,
Yeah,
because Raish even explains that, he did dunk Duvall in the Lazarus pit.
yeah,
So he's lasted as long as he has because of the Lazarus pit, but he can't get restored now.
yeah.
But the
Too late.
idea was that he was sentenced to 50 years hard labor because that was supposed to kill him. Like, well, we're not going to execute you, but we're going to give you a sentence that we don't expect you to actually like survive.
Yeah, and we're gonna get some labor out of you, which
Exactly. But apparently it just like, 50 years of doing that just like screwed him up like totally.
bad.
He's a vegetable now.
Total vegetable. He's not even coherent or anything. He's just kind of thing. But I just, yeah, it's a good episode. It's a Jonah Hex episode,
Right.
but it's got Batman, beginning.
Bookends.
Yes, bookend Batmans, which I have some of those, which is cool. But yeah, it was just kind of like, I don't know, it's just a neat little story. I thought I totally forgot the structure of it, to be honest. And I almost even forgot the twist. It was when we got back to like the airport thing, and I went, oh yeah, that's right. And I went, ooh, yeah, this is actually like, I like that little twist, and it's a very enjoyable episode.
It's a very good episode, and I hate the fact that it takes us forever to eventually see Jonah Hex, because Jonah Hex does show up again in the animated universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
won't be until Justice League Unlimited, but he does show up again.
Yeah, it's always very interesting how they like, hey, this was a cool episode, but then again, maybe they just looked at it as like, did people actually enjoy that? Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, watching it now, being a grown up, I was like,
oh, this is a great episode.
Yeah,
this
it's great. It's original.
I liked it as a kid too.
Yeah.
I remember this episode, and I liked this episode. It was not an episode that made me go, "Oh, there's no Batman in this episode. I don't want to watch it." It was like, no, it was still cool to watch.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but no, yeah, really enjoyed it. But yeah, but what do we got next week?
We have Riddler's Reform.
Ooh, Riddler's back.
Actually, and this is the last Riddler episode of this original run.
See, I'm like hazy on this one. I'm like, you can see my brain kind of going like,
Yeah, but actually, if I remember correctly, I think this is actually an episode that John Glover has actually said is like, I think like one of his favorites.
Really?
Yeah, like he really enjoyed Riddler's Reform. I remember it because we've talked about those VHS tapes that they did. And of course, you could fit 4 episodes on a VHS tape.
Yeah.
But there were only 3 Riddler episodes ever.
So it was all on one. Yeah.
It was all on one. Yeah.
Why this one's just not ringing any bells big time. I mean, the title, I'm like, that's kind of doing something, but I'm like, obviously the other Riddler episodes I loved a lot, and I already know that once it starts playing, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I have something I always love making you like sweat it, because there's something I could tell you that would go, oh yeah.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do
I'm
it.
Not gonna do it.
Yeah,
no, I like making you sweat.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I know that, but it's just right now my brain is going, no, we already watched that one. We already watched that one. Which one is this one? And then,
well, but you got to remember, once again, we're getting to these episodes that are there at that, we're in 95. We're at the tail end of this original run.
Yeah.
So I can understand you being a little bit more like
hazy when it comes to these ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. So, all right, we'll watch that episode next week. Riddler's Reform should be a good one. And like I said, like I already know, like when we start out the episode, I'm like, yep. But yeah, we're getting close to even being done with this season 2. Like,
no, I mean, we're tonight was episode 78, and the original run, of the animated series, was 85 episodes before we then talk Sub-Zero, and And then we got to figure out what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into season 3 because technically we've got like Superman the animated series that happens like in the middle of that.
We might have to do that if we're going to go in order because we have been doing like this production order thing. So maybe we will jump to that.
And technically, we could just jump into season 3, but then we technically have to go and watch World's Finest, and those were 3 episodes of Superman the animated series.
Yeah, no, we'll most likely do that for sure. I think we should keep the order going when it comes to animation, at least. So, but all right, guys, this was a great episode. Like I said, and if you didn't watch it and you liked hearing us, give it a watch. It's all on HBO Max. It's all there. It's all, I know somebody on Twitter was saying like, hey, where can I watch this? All on HBO Max. And next week we'll be talking about the Riddler's Reform. And hopefully you guys will join us for that. Go ahead and send us off, Scott.
Well, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at ScottDC27. You can find my podcast, the DC Squadcast, wherever podcasts can be found. We did just drop a new episode of Man of Steel, scene by scene, yesterday, so go and check that one out. It's the famous scene of, I will find him!
Yes, God.
Of course, we're on Vero, Facebook, YouTube, with the entire network of shows at squadcastmedia.com.
There it is, guys. Make sure you smash that like, thumbs up, do all that. We got a new Batman shirt that's in the Film Junkie closet. So if you guys want to check that out, do so, and do everything else. Follow on the sock meds, and we'll see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Talk to you later.